Hi, I'm Paulette Mitchell, one of your Viking enrichment lecturers. I'm speaking to you today from my home in Minneapolis. I'm the author of 14 cookbooks, which has led to many interesting experiences around the world, including speaking on international cruises, Viking among them, for the past 2 decades. A perfect assignment for my intrepid nature and insatiable curiosity. As a photographer, I have created slideshows relating to the ports we visit. I'm especially interested in the cuisines, culture, and customs. So I'm pleased today to share some of my photos and stories about clothing that is worn around the world. What would you wear if you woke up this morning and you were dressing to go to Copacabana Beach? Or if you are Thai and your day will be spent harvesting rice? Or maybe you are setting out to pick tea in Sri Lanka? Or what if there are snakes in the grass and you seek protection? Clothing worn around the globe is fascinating for many reasons, and viewing clothing is a perfect example of how travel is one of our greatest teachers. Now, much of the world responds to Western fashion trends, and many people want to dress just like Americans, wearing jeans. But traditional outfits are put on for festivals in many places, while Western-style clothing is worn on the streets. In some locations, people still boldly wear traditional dress, which preserves their cultural heritage and serves practical purposes. Today, I'll discuss clothing worn in the countries you see listed here, as well as some tips for how we should dress as world travelers. With only a few exceptions, the photos you will see are my own, taken during many years of world travel. In another phase of my life, prior to becoming a cookbook author and speaker, I had a career in retailing. I modeled and often commentated fashion shows, so clothing has always been of interest to me, and it's something I notice wherever I go. Today, I will be discussing clothing worn around the world for local fashion, and in many cases for surprising function. When we first think of the word fashion, well-known designers may come to mind. Elegant streets in the upscale areas of many places we travel, such as Paris, Rome, Hong Kong, are all lined with shops selling what we consider to be fine designer apparel. The subject of clothing can be even more intriguing when you go beyond fashion and know the purpose or reason behind what people around the world choose to wear. Fashion is more than just a piece of clothing. It can tell a story. In some parts of the world, as these shots taken in Greenland, people definitely dress more for function than for what we call fashion. As you know, activities and weather can be a determining factor. Outfits may exhibit time-honored traditions. Near the port in Puerto Chiapas, Mexico, dancers wear colorfully embroidered costumes. In Salvador de Bahia, Brazil, clothing reflects the African influence. It's human nature that we are fascinated with something different. Of course, that applies to our attitudes toward clothing. Here, dressed for practicality, I was at the end of a very hot, humid day in Mumbai. But these two Indian girls stopped me near the gateway to India to tell me how much they loved the way I was dressed. To me, they looked far more elegant. It's all about our point of view. As you travel, you just might cross paths with someone who has their very own personal fashion. This man walking down Las Ramblas in Barcelona wears nothing at all but a Speedo tattoo. Although this program surely is not an exhaustive study of clothing worn around the world, I'll show you what is worn in many areas that I, and perhaps you also, have visited, and I'll share stories behind some of the apparel details. In Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, clothing may be minimal, such as Copacabana beach attire, which often takes to the streets. It is said that in France, personal appearance focuses on clothes. In Brazil, the body takes center stage. Clothing is worn merely to enhance it. Brazil is also known for elaborate carnival costumes. Carnival actually began with the Catholics in Italy, and the tradition spread to other European countries, including Portugal, which is how the Brazilian Carnival was born. The Portuguese had slaves from Africa, and that is why Carnival has a strong African influence. The Africans used masks and costumes made of feathers, bones, and grass, and other elements in an attempt to ward off evil spirits. Feathers in particular now form an integral part in the design of costumes for the modern Rio Carnival. Here in Cadiz, Spain, you see bright-colored dancewear. This is typical of costumes worn by performers. Ruffles and flowers are common elements of the women's outfits. The flamenco dress is usually figure-hugging to mid-thigh and then continues with ruffles to the ankle. The dress is typically brightly colored and may be patterned. The most famous styles have polka dots. The traditional look calls for high heels that are enhanced for sound. In fact, traditional flamenco shoes have nails driven into the soles. Typically, hair is worn in a bun, often accessorized with flowers. The outfit is styled for expressive movements and may have ruffled sleeves that accentuate the rhythm of the music. In Guatemala, the Mayan people, or those who are part Mayan, still make up the majority of the population. They dress in bold colors, many of which are dyed using materials from nature. The patterns and designs of traditional clothing differ from town to town. An example of clothing showing location. Even the children wear traditional clothing when attending school. The intent of the Guatemalan people is to preserve their rich cultural heritage. So traditional outfits are worn on the streets and not just for festivals. The sute is a multi-purpose woven cloth worn by most women in Antigua. It comes in a variety of sizes and may be used to carry babies, to cover baskets of food, to wear as a shawl on cool days, or as a head cover for protection from the hot sun. The dress of indigenous women in the Andes is rooted in traditions from pre-conquest Peru, and each village and region has a unique way of putting their outfits together. One item in particular that identifies the village is a hand-woven rectangular woolen shawl, fastened in the front with a decorative pin called a tupu. The traditional Andean skirts called pollare are hand-woven from wool. Some women layer 3 or 4 skirts, and for festivals, women may wear up to 15 skirts tied around their waists. Quechua people are several indigenous ethnic groups of South America, especially in Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, and Argentina. It is the hats that indicate where a woman is from. Most women wear modern clothing these days. These women were standing outside my bus in Cusco to welcome tourists. In some areas, both women and men wear these brimmed felt hats. These hats are both for function and for style. Many elderly men in Peru wear knee-length, dark-colored hand-woven pants, which are practical for working in the fields. Men in Peru may wear a hat called a chullo. It is made from vicuna, alpaca, llama, or sheep's wool. Some, like the one in this photo, are adorned with large tassels. The first chullo that a child receives traditionally is knitted by his father. Also notice the shoes this man is wearing. These are sandals made from recycled tires. The ear flaps, some of which can be tied under the chin for extra warmth, insulate the wearer from harsh elements in the Andean mountain regions. Another distinctive part of the man's clothing is the hand-woven poncho. It's generally red in color and is decorated with intricate designs. In many villages, ponchos are worn not just for festivals, but as daily attire. In Colombia, Palenquero are the descendants of enslaved Africans from a village about an hour from Cartagena. One of the costumes they have preserved is the traditional dress of women who pose for tourists in Cartagena's Old Town. The outfits are brightly colored with flowing skirts. Remember though, these are costumes and are not typical streetwear. Montecristi, Ecuador is the center of production of the Panama hat. These hats have always been produced in Ecuador, but have been shipped worldwide from Panama, hence the misnomer. You can see them being made and can buy these hats at street markets. But those that are top quality require months to make. Quality is determined by the fineness and evenness of the weave. After weaving, the hats must be shaped, but today nearly all are shaped on a hydraulic hat press. The art of hand blocking hats is a nearly lost art. The top quality Panama hats are labeled super fine and can cost thousands of US dollars. One February, I arrived in Salvador de Bahia, Brazil, on the day of Carnival. Many of the women were wearing traditional clothing, which was represented in this large sculpture in a city square. The pronounced African influence goes back to slaves who were brought here to work in the sugarcane fields more than 400 years ago. Demographically, the city is about 85% African ancestry. And the West African influence is seen not only in the local costumes, but also in the food, the language, the music, and the dance. The women in costumes wore a wide lace top over a billowy cotton-belled skirt, a turban-styled headdress, and often several strands of beaded necklaces. This, again, is not typical streetwear, but these are outfits worn for celebrations like Carnival. Paul Gauguin comes to mind when we think of French Polynesia. In his paintings, the native women are wearing flowers in their hair and floral print pareos. Some wear billowy dresses. The flower behind the ear sends a signal. When tucked behind the left ear, it means the wearer is taken. Worn behind the right ear, the flower signifies that the wearer is available. Distinctive Tahitian headdresses are still seen among men and women who wear them for performances, in markets, and even on the streets. These floral crowns are made from aromatic flowers such as hibiscus and frangipani. They are always colorful and fresh. And apparently they come in a variety of styles based on flowers used in the creations. For men, headdresses are usually made from coconut leaves, and so are their hats. You may see vendors weaving these hats at markets. For men, body piercing and tattoos are also an important part of the Polynesian culture. In some places, tattoos may be fashionable works of art. However, in Samoa, Tahiti, and other Polynesian islands, the tattoos may be part of the transition from childhood to adulthood. Some tattoos have religious and spiritual significance and are believed to offer protection. Others depict a person's social status, occupation, island of origin, tribe, and achievements. The men's necklaces are made from bone spikes and boar's tusks, which are sometimes ornately carved. These tusks are from the wild pigs that live in the mountains, and they are hunted for food. Another notable element when speaking of clothing in Samoa and other parts of Polynesia is the third gender, which alongside male and female is a recognized identity in these cultures. These are people who are born biologically male, but take on female behavior, including not only their mannerisms, but also the way they dress and their employment choices, which often includes household tasks. This is a well-accepted group that is neither looked down upon nor discriminated against. They reinforce their femininity with the fact that they are attracted to and receive sexual attention from straight masculine men. These people are called fa'afeni, which translated literally means in the manner of a woman. In Japan, there was a time when women wore kimonos daily, but now they are worn primarily for formal occasions, special events, and tea ceremonies. Everything in the kimono has symbolism. For example, young unmarried women wear kimonos with long sleeves and complex patterns. Married women wear shorter sleeves and fewer patterns. Married women also expose more of their necks than young unmarried women. Clothing often reflects attitudes toward modesty, especially for women. Another element is the obi, which is basically a wide belt or sash that holds the outfit together. The purpose of the obi also is to conceal the shape of the woman's body so that the hips and breasts are not visible. It can be tied in a variety of manners, some say 300 different ways. Unmarried women wear their obi in more decorative shapes, such as in the shape of a butterfly. The traditional shoes, called zori, are usually made from rice straw or lacquered wood. Tabi are the typical socks, usually white, that separate the big toe. An advantage of this type of footwear is the ease of slipping the shoes off when entering a home or restaurant. Jika tabi, which means tabi that contacts or has contact with the ground, is a type of outdoor footwear worn in Japan. These shoes were invented in the 20th century and are a takeoff of the tabi socks, but these are made of heavy, tough material and are often used by construction workers, farmers, gardeners, and those pulling rickshaws. Wearers of these shoes say that they prefer contact with the ground, which the rigid soles of other shoes do not allow. Geishas are recognized by their elaborate kimonos and hair, as well as full white face makeup, which is generally worn during special performances. The white face covering is accompanied with black accents around the eyes and eyebrows, as well as bright red lipstick. The hairstyle is a chignon, usually decorated with elaborate hair combs and hairpins. Some of these styles are actually wigs, but if not, geishas sleep with their necks on special supports to keep their hairstyles perfect. On a trip to Tokyo, this was my rickshaw driver in his interesting hat. Kasa is the word for hat in Japan, which shares its etymology with the Japanese word for umbrella, and this surely looks like one. Speaking of hats, many styles are worn in Thailand. Rather than for fashion, their primary purpose is to protect the wearer from the sun and heat. Most hats here are made from straw with large brims, as you can see on this vendor in Phuket. Thai hats are not worn close to the head, but rather have a space between the head and the top of the hat to allow for airflow, making the wearer cooler. The mahout who managed my elephant wore a safari style, which is a typical shape for men. The hat worn by the female market vendors in Bangkok is the traditional Thai farmer hat. These hats are made from a particular palm leaf and bamboo. In Thailand, gold is an important part of the culture. Giving and wearing gold is a demonstration of wealth. So this is the headdress worn by female dancers for traditional performances. The lower part of her body is adorned to resemble a bird, believed to enable the dancer to fly back and forth between the human and mythical worlds. The dancers are trained from early on to bend their fingers backwards to create these elegant gestures. Buddhist monks in Thailand wear reddish-yellow robes. The color dates back centuries when orange was shown mainly because of the saffron dye available at the time. These simple robes represent their own detachment from the physical world in the pursuit of enlightenment. There are a number of ways monks wear the robes, depending upon the sect. For some, like these monks, the right side of the robe is pushed under the armpit, leaving the right shoulder bare. The monks in Cambodia wear robes of a similar color, which are draped in a different, distinctive manner. Nearly every Buddhist male in Cambodia, also Thailand, is expected to become a monk for a short period of his life. This is seen as a rite of passage to adulthood, and this is the reason that many males dressed in this manner are very young. While most of the young men return to lay life after spending some time being a novice, a small percentage of them become ordained monks. The non la is the palm leaf conical hat, which is a traditional symbol of the Vietnamese people. These hats are made from available materials such as palm leaves and tree bark. Most have silk or cotton chin straps, and the same material makes an internal band that keeps the hat from directly resting on the wearer's head, again to allow for the flow of air. These conical hats are worn by just about everyone as protection from the sun and rain, and they can be dipped in water and then worn as an impromptu evaporative cooling device. Sometimes they may be used to collect rainwater or as a basket for gathering fruits at the market. This hat is nothing new. Images of it were embossed on drums made 3,000 years ago, and the hat shape is also seen in many parts of Asia. The traditional Vietnamese national costume for women is the áo đai. This is a slim-fitting silk tunic worn over loose trousers. This shot from the 60s is a vintage photo given to me by a Vietnamese friend who now lives in the US. The style of her dress fits tightly around the torso, emphasizing the bust and curves. So although the dress covers the entire body, it is thought to be provocative. According to one saying, the áo đai covers everything, but covers nothing. This style of dress was seen on the streets during my visits to Ho Chi Minh City in the 80s and even in the early 2000s. And it was common to see young girls in áo đais riding bikes down city streets. Now the traditional outfit is standard for weddings and for some uniforms, such as in hotels. Many Vietnamese street vendors wear pajama-like pants and loose-fitting shirts. But on the streets, many women also wear Western-style jeans and t-shirts. In Indonesia, men in Bali wear fabric wrapped around the body as a sarong from the waist down, and it is topped with a loose-fitting shirt. They begin dressing in this manner at a young age. Typical fabric for apparel is batik, a process used to create colorful patterns, hand-printed by first applying wax to the areas of cotton to be left undyed. On their heads, most men, especially Buddhists, wear a band of cloth tied at the front with the top of the head left exposed. For young boys, the head wrap is usually white. In the rice fields in Lombok, men and women wear colorfully painted hats as protection from the sun. As in Vietnam, the shape is intended to provide the flow of air to keep the wearer cool. There are a number of religions in Indonesia. In Bali, 84% of the population adheres to Balinese Hinduism. In Lombok, Indonesia, where this shot was taken, the people are predominantly Muslim. And FYI, in most Muslim countries, it is considered inappropriate to take photos of the women. However, in Indonesia and Malaysia, the Muslim women, at least in my experience, seem to welcome photos, but that is not the case in many other destinations. Women and young girls of all ages may cover their hair with a hijab. The use of the hijab is a symbol of religious devotion and is voluntary in Indonesia, except when they enter a mosque or other Islamic building. Some hijabs are just a solid piece of cloth. In Bali, decorative embroidery may be added to allow some personalization. Here's the style in Java, Indonesia. So as you can see, the dress and head coverings for Muslim women vary greatly from one place to another. Women such as these performing as we docked in Kemaman, Malaysia, are wearing baju karung, a knee-length blouse worn over a long skirt. The men wear a similar tunic over pants. Here, the Muslim headscarf is known as a tudung, which simply means cover. The fabric is soft and scarf-like and usually colorful. It may be paired with a conical hat as protection from the sun. In spite of the heat in Singapore, the Muslim head coverings are much heavier. They are also more ornate and often patterned. On a different note, let's take a look at a style scene in Sydney, Australia. Today, most Aborigines wear Western-style clothing, except for the street performers. For most of their existence, the Aborigines have worn very little, if any, clothing. Aborigines traditionally preferred body decoration, such as personal ornaments, like arm and headbands, necklaces, and bracelets, which were usually made from shells, bones, animal teeth, or claws, or bits of feathers and fur. They also decorated their bodies with paints made from traditional natural materials, such as charcoal or clay. The Aboriginal societies were once nomadic, so they did not place a high value on material objects. But they do have an instrument called a didgeridoo, which is typically crafted from certain types of eucalyptus tree trunks that are naturally hollowed out by termites. The wood is cleaned out and painted with designs, and the mouthpiece is coated with beeswax. Used to accompany ritual dancing, the instrument produces a drone sound that is made through the vibration of one's lips at the mouthpiece end. Locals in the Solomon Islands wear loose cotton clothing in Western style, but traditional clothing is worn for celebrations. These male dancers are wearing scanty coverings made from tapa cloth, which is created from tree bark, and body paint. They are adorned with accessories, such as necklaces and headbands, which feature shells and beads. The men in Onaria are performing a Polynesian dance, which was forbidden to be performed during the 1940s by Christian missionaries, perhaps because of the outfits or lack thereof. Dances which are performed at ceremonies and special occasions are an important part of the culture of the Solomon Islands. The music is created by panpipes made from bamboo of varying lengths to create different tones. Ankle bracelets called dance jingles are also worn by some of the dancers to underscore the rhythm of the music and dance. Seeds, nuts, horns, shells, or metal may be attached to the straps. Here they are worn around the ankles, but similar objects may be worn around the neck, arms, or calves. In Tonga, it is considered appropriate to always cover shoulders and knees. Contemporary clothing is worn by some young people, but in many villages, both men and women wear a tupanu, which is a long wraparound skirt with pockets. At the time of my day in Vava'u in 2006, Tonga villagers were wearing grass skirts as a funeral or mourning outfit. They explained that this was to honor one of their rulers who had died. Atop black clothing, this outfit includes several types of wrappings, though there is a fashion statement, Tonga style. This woman is wearing a kiki, which is a belt with decorative strips hanging down. These natives are wearing Tayuvala, which almost looks like a grass skirt. Close family members continue to dress in this manner during the entire mourning period, which can last from 3 days to a year. The grass wraps are also worn for weddings, but for this event, they are very large, often extending from the chest to the floor, and they are decorated with shells, feathers, and ribbons. An Indian sari is a strip of cloth that is brightly colored and often patterned, varying from 2 to 9 yards in length and from 2 to 4 feet in width. It is typically wrapped around the waist with one end draped over the shoulder. There are many possible styles for draping the fabric. Beneath the sari, Indian women wear a fitted short-sleeve blouse that is cropped at the midriff. Today, many saris are woven on mechanical looms and are made from synthetic fibers. But traditionally, saris were hand-woven from cotton or silk and represented a considerable investment of time and money. Saris are worn even when women are doing physical labor. These women had the job of cleaning the port area when I arrived on a ship in Chennai. This colorfully dressed woman is pouring cement near the gateway to India in Mumbai. The job may be unloading from fishing boats in Mangalore or sweeping steps in Goa. Working women are colorfully and properly dressed. The sari can also be pulled up as a head covering to mark respect to God and elders. And yet, on more than one occasion, when asked to take a photo of an Indian woman, she has first pulled a covering over her head. In a country where nothing goes to waste, saris may be used for carrying goods. And here is a colorful area located on a railroad track under a bridge where old saris are gathered together for recycling. Another type of Indian woman's dress is the salwar kameez. This is a long shirt or tunic called a kurti that falls to about mid-calf and is designed to be worn over loose pajama-like trousers, which sometimes taper at the ankle. This also is common streetwear for many women in India. This type of outfit is often the style for a girl's school uniform. Traditional streetwear is often worn at the beach, such as on these girls at Marina Beach in Chennai. Indian women usually don't swim. They more typically wade or bathe in holy waters, which they do wearing their everyday garments. The modesty relates to India's very traditional culture. Colorful matching metal wrist bangles are the most popular decorative accessory for Indian women, and they take into consideration function as well as fashion. It is believed that bangles improve blood circulation in the body. Even the poorest women possess some kinds of jewelry that they can afford. Part of the appeal is also the tinkling sound made by the bangles, which they believe helps to keep away negative energy. The red dot, called a bindi, above in the center of the forehead, close to a woman's eyebrows, serves as a sign of marriage. The red color represents honor, love, and prosperity. It is also believed to enhance beauty. The bindi between the eyebrows of both Indian men and women is also a sacred symbol created as a means to worship one's intellect, ensuring that thoughts, speech, action habits, and ultimately one's character become pure. In addition to the bindi, a vermilion red pigment mark made using a cosmetic powder in the parting of the hair is worn by Hindu women to denote that they are married. During Hindu marriage ceremonies, the groom applies sindoor in the part of the bride's hair. After marriage, ceasing to wear the mark usually implies widowhood, and there are rituals associated with the removal, which is most often done by a mother-in-law or sister-in-law. Piercings are also popular and purposeful in India. It is believed that the nerves in the ears connect to the reproductive organs and also connect to the eyes, resulting in better eyesight. According to Ayurveda, piercing the nose on the left side helps in easing childbirth, and gold is believed to give women strength. Another female adornment in India is henna on the hands. Henna on the top of the hands can be suggestive of protection. Henna on the palms allows the bearer to receive and offer blessings. Some Indian women also adorn their feet with toe rings that are generally made of silver. They are believed to absorb energy from the earth, refreshing the woman's body and also offering help in conceiving. So as you can see, female jewelry in India is considered to be both beautiful and purposeful. Is it my imagination, or do some female vendors in the Indian markets dress to match what they are selling? I think this is just too common to be coincidental. A sari and melons? A sari and peas? Male porters in the market seem to be color conscious too. Most men on the streets in Mumbai dress simply in solid, neutral-colored Western-style pants and collared shirts. However, in coastal areas, fishermen have their own style of dress. This shot taken in Chennai shows fishermen's typical apparel called a lungi. Another photo taken in Cochin, India. The garment is sort of a loincloth. The wearer knots the upper part and then tucks in the knot at the waist. Notable also are the men of the Sikh religion, which is prevalent in Punjab, the state of India. The turban is an article of faith and represents honor, self-respect, courage, and spirituality. Sikhs believe that their hair channels strength and spiritual energy, which is why their hair is often long and often men have beards. Young boys, usually until puberty, wear a smaller turban called a patka, which covers a knot of hair at the top of the head. The women at this tea plantation in Sri Lanka are dressed for function. The headpiece they are wearing is actually a usable bag. As the women handpick the Ceylon tea leaves, they reach overhead to drop the leaves into the bag that hangs down their backs. This is very hard work, especially in the hot sun. The female tea pickers begin working when they are 12 years old, and they live at the plantation in a very humble housing system. Let's take a look at the men's clothing in Oman. The national dress for Omani men is the dish dash. It is most often white, although there is a variety of other colors, such as black, blue, and brown. The main adornment is a tassel sewn into the neckline. It is impregnated with perfume, which the men may smell throughout the day to draw their attention away from bad odors. This gesture is often seen in fish markets. On a daily basis, Omani men may wear a variety of headdresses. The most common is the muzar, a square of patterned, finely woven wool or cotton fabric that is wrapped and folded into a turban. Some wear intricately embroidered caps, usually white, and this may also be worn under a turban. This man is wearing a checked cotton head wrap called a kafia, which is distinctive for Saudi Arabian and some other Muslim men. It is believed that this pattern may have originated from the representation of fishing nets. The wrap offers protection from sunburn, dust, and sand. Another headdress to accompany the dish dash is the kama, which is an embroidered cap made from white cotton material with small holes to keep the head cool in the hot sun. Because it may take months to hand stitch the most ornate of these caps, some sell for over $100 or $400 US. The Sultan of Oman has worked to maintain the cultural heritage of Oman, so men are proud to wear these hats for the patriotism they represent. Egypt has a range of traditional costumes. Many men wear a gobia, which is a long-sleeved shirt with a loose fit under the arms. The garment is made from cotton in the summer and wool in the winter. The robes of both sexes cover the entire body, and their looseness allows a cooling circulation of air and serves as insulation. Some Egyptian men wear nothing on their heads, but many wear turbans. Others wear an embroidered cap. In Egypt, this is called a taqiya. Muslim women in Egypt wear the hijab or headscarf. In Egypt, the head covering is worn right to the hairline in front, so no hair shows. Hair is considered to be a beautiful part of a woman that is private. The fashion can be very plain for older women, but young girls usually dress more colorfully. Women generally also wear traditional, long, loose-fitting gowns. In the United Arab Emirates, the men, whether in a mosque with shoes removed or on the street, or in a luxury shopping mall, wear a thobe, which is a loose ankle-length robe made from white cotton. It is the coolest color and also the coolest fabric to wear in the hot desert heat. They may have distinctive Arabic kafia on their heads. This is a square of fabric folded into a triangle. If you walk through the Dubai Mall, you'll notice designer labels on some of these cloths. It is held in place with an eagle, which is a circlet originally made from camel hair. This headgear is purposeful in allowing the forehead to come in contact with the ground when praying. The red and white checked keffiyeh was made popular by Arafat, so there is an element of men's fashion as well as function in this way of dressing. Others, such as these men in Abu Dhabi, have the cloth draped around their heads differently. My guide explained that this is an element of style, especially among young men. Regarding dressing, the shopping malls in the UAE stress the importance of wearing respectful clothing. Although the thobe is pictured with the policy statement, foreigners are simply expected to have their shoulders and knees covered. I'll speak more about guidelines for tourists later in this program. Outside the home, many Arab women dress according to religious custom, which means that they must cover most of their body from head to foot. Some Arab women are totally covered, including their face and hands. However, there are no restrictions on the way women dress at home, where many adopt Western dress, especially younger women. And from watching Arab women shop in the Dubai Mall, it's easy to see that many have designer taste. In Fujairah, another of the Emirates, as well as in other Arab countries, I have seen several older women wearing a face covering made from metal. Some are made from pure gold. The purpose of this is to hide all facial hair, including the eyebrows and any hair on the upper lip. This is an example of how the Islamic requirements for women are interpreted in many different ways. In Mombasa, Kenya, many Muslim women wear the traditional black buibui, but some women and young girls dress in more colorful patterned clothing, which includes a covering to conceal their hair. African festival clothing is colorful and flamboyant with feathers, beads, and bright colors. Among the Maasai, clothing is especially bright, and red is a favored color. Large beaded necklaces are a tradition. The beadworking done by the women has a long history among the Samburu tribe in north-central Kenya. The colors and designs can indicate someone's age, social status, marital status, and even whether a woman has given birth to a boy or a girl. The colors may also relate to cattle, which are the main food source for the Maasai. The blue sky, for example, is important because it provides rain for the cattle. Green stands for the land, which grows food for the cattle. Red relates to the blood of the cows and symbolizes bravery and strength. White means purity, as in the color of the milk. Black symbolizes the people and the struggles they endure. This Maasai man is wearing a ma, which is the word for the fabric sheet traditionally worn wrapped around the body and tied over one shoulder. Again, it is red, the favored color for clothing. His personal adornments included beaded bracelets around his wrist and ankles, layers of necklaces, and beaded bands worn on the head. Note the man's earrings, which hang from piercings created using thorns at the top of his ears. His authentic Maasai recycled motorcycle tread sandals are durable and practical. The kuma is the hat we saw in Oman, and it's believed to have originated in Zanzibar, Tanzania, a former colony of Oman. In Zanzibar, there are many shops selling them, but here they are called keffiyeh, which means hat in Swahili. The kuma is worn by men in all walks of life. This is the chicken area of a market in Zanzibar, and a street market vendor wearing a more simple style. Many men in Tanzania wear the long traditional white robes called galabia, especially on Friday, which is the Muslim day of prayer. Some wear loose-fitting shirts and trousers. Some women wear a kanga. This is a rectangle of cotton printed in bold designs, bright colors, and usually with a border all around. Some Muslim women and young girls in Zanzibar wear the black cotton cloak called buibui. In Zanzibar, you can clearly see that bright colors are also acceptable. Head coverings may extend to drape over the shoulders, and they are usually in bright colors and casually worn. In Zanzibar, I didn't get the sense that this manner of dressing holds women back. This is a beautiful and important custom and means nothing more. In Madagascar, the lamba is the traditional garment worn by both men and women. It is basically a rectangle of cloth, usually cotton, draped around the body. And again, the colors are bright. The wrap is usually tied over a sleeveless blouse. The lamba can be folded to make a hat, or used as a cushion when carrying a heavy object on top of the head. It also offers protection from the sun and may be used to tie children to the mother's backs. It may be draped simply as a colorful covering for head and body. One thing that may puzzle you is that many of the women's faces in Madagascar and elsewhere in Africa are spread with mazo juani. This is a mix of powdered sandalwood and oil obtained from the Barbados nut. This facial mask is a natural sunscreen to protect the skin from the hot sun. It is also seen as a fashion statement. Face painting is also very popular. Among the most interesting appearances is the style of the semi-nomadic Himba women in Namibia. Tribal members wear very little clothing. Notice the animal skin atop this woman's head, which means she has been married for a year. Each morning, the women go through a time-consuming beauty ritual that includes smearing themselves or one another with a fragrant mixture of animal fat, red ochre, and local herbs, leaving no part of the body unpainted. They consider this a way to cleanse without water. The skin covering also offers some protection against the desert sun and wind, provides a repellent against insects, and gives their bodies a smooth reddish appearance, which in this culture is considered to be beautiful. The women also braid one another's hair and coat it with an ochre mixture that results in a look similar to dreadlocks. The women are proud of these hairstyles, which cling to ancient costumes. Hay and goat hair may be used as extensions, and they sleep on wooden pillows to keep their hairstyles intact. The women are adorned with lots of jewelry, and each item signifies marital status, age, number of children, or family group. Most notable are the distinctive ankle coverings. As well as being ornamental, the wide ankle bracelets are functional because they protect women's ankles from venomous snakes when walking through grassy and rocky areas. It's actually the Himba women that inspired this presentation. While researching their hairstyle, I realized that there are many reasons for the unusual elements that we see in clothing and grooming around the world. On an entirely different note, we'll end in Paris at Place de la Concorde. Purely by chance, one summer night I was in Paris on the night of La Nuit Blanche, a white party. The Parisians poured out of the metro carrying picnic baskets, chairs, folding tables, and even candelabra. All were dressed in white. And then, as the sun was setting, they assembled a beautiful event at Place de la Concorde. A horn sounded, champagne corks popped, and the group proceeded to have a fashionable outdoor party as only the French can do. During our world travels, it's important to think about what apparel is most appropriate for us to wear. Being prepared for the differences of clothing norms will help us to be respectful, to avoid unwanted attention, and to be welcomed. I suggest that you study online to be aware of the rules for your destinations. I recommend viewing journeywoman.com. For example, you'll find it is illegal to wear fatigue prints in the Philippines, Saudi Arabia, and in some African countries. Also on many Caribbean islands, including Jamaica, Antigua, Barbados, and St. Lucia. This shot was taken at the Grand Palace in Bangkok, where men must wear long pants and shirts with sleeves. No bare feet are allowed, which means sandals must be worn with socks, or you can wear closed-toed shoes. For women, legs and shoulders must be covered. As I mentioned previously, sometimes rules for dress are posted. This sign is at the entrance to the Dubai Mall. In many places, being appropriate simply means being covered up with loose-fitting, body-concealing clothing. In Dubai, public displays of affection, even holding hands, offend public decency. One rule of thumb is to see how locals of the same sex and similar age to you are dressing and behaving in everyday public life. The saying, "do as the Romans do," makes sense. It helps to be educated because rules vary greatly around the world. For example, to enter some temples, shoes are required. Others require that they be removed. To enter a temple in Bali, open-toed shoes are acceptable, but it's important to dress modestly. Legs and shoulder coverings are mandatory for both men and women. FYI, I had a shirt in my bag, which I wore to cover my shoulders before entering the temple. The shot was taken before entering. I like to bring my own pareo rather than the ones provided at entry booths to temples. That can be worn over pants or shorts. In Bali, you may be asked to add a temple scarf, which is the yellow sash here, and that's provided to be tied around your waist. Usually women can have our heads uncovered in most Muslim countries, except when going into mosques. So in the Middle East, it's also a good idea to bring along a large scarf. At the King Abdullah Mosque in Jordan, I had a tiny bit of hair peeking out of the back of this headscarf, and I was asked to conceal it. Again, I prefer having my own head covering to one that might be provided. I'm also wearing a shirt with a button collar. It pays to bring safety pins, so the closing of your shirt will pass inspection. Keep in mind that wearing natural fibers such as cotton or linen in a loose fit is ideal for hot, humid weather, and it's a good idea to protect your skin from the very strong sun. Charts like this will cite specific rules. To enter most mosques, women must have ankles covered, arms covered to the wrists, and a shirt collar that goes at least halfway up the neck. At the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi, the dress code is clearly posted. Men cannot wear shorts or sandals. And at this mosque, a specific garment is provided for women. It can be worn over your own clothing. Wearing it is mandatory, including having the hood up to conceal your hair. In general, always keep in mind well broken in, sensible shoes with good tread. Keep your high heels for evenings on the ships. Short shorts are also inappropriate in most parts of the world. Again, respect local customs. The woman in this shot made a few mistakes. Being practical is important in many destinations. For safaris, wearing clothing based on the colors of the landscape will increase the chance of seeing animals. White is the most conspicuous color. In some areas, blue and black attract flies. Rain gear, though not particularly fashionable, is generally provided on safaris. For other destinations, travel with a fold-up raincoat in your bag. Many companies sell clothing that contains sun guard. For safaris, I like to bring sun guard hand covers for wearing during the sunniest part of the day. Bring a large brimmed hat, which is best if it has a chin strap to prevent it from blowing off. This has been just a small sampling of apparel guidelines for travel. In general, you can't go wrong dressing conservatively and being prepared to layer. Remember, most important is to study the customs before you leave home. Again, I recommend the website journeywoman.com. This resource allows you to learn what is and isn't appropriate in dozens of countries. I hope you have enjoyed this Viking presentation, and I sincerely hope to cross paths with you in person on an upcoming Viking ship.